now independent Senator Angus King of Maine. He's a member of both the Armed Services and Intelligence Committees. So I'll start with the same question I've asked everyone so far this morning. The account we have so far, as described in The Atlantic especially, but showing that there is 40 minutes between the first strike and the second, and that these were unarmed two men with no radios, as far as the latest reporting shows, seeming to give a wave to the U.S. flying above of surrender. Is that second strike a war crime?
Well, again, we don't have the facts yet. I haven't seen the video. There have been a very limited number of members of Congress, I think 7 or 8, who saw it.
Does that account describe a war crime?
That account does. In fact, I'll give you a citation. The U.S. Defense Department Manual of War, which is 3 volumes, section 18.3.2.1 is headed clear law of war violations, clear war crimes, and orders that cannot be obeyed. It uses as the example of a clear violation killing survivors of a shipwreck.
And so, as we are hoping that Democrats perhaps and some Republicans might agree on transparency, what will you be looking for if we can actually see this tape, and especially in those 40 minutes between the first and the second strike? Do you think that time stamp, that time span, is adding to the potential and concern that there was a decision here made that was unlawful?
Well, we need to see all of it. We need to see the logs of the decisions. I want to see what Pete Hegseth's initial order was.
Right.
But all that transpired in between. And they can't say that we can't see this tape, because remember, the day after this strike, on September 3rd, Pete Hegseth was on Fox News with the tape of the strike.
Very proud of it.
Very proud of it. And they can't say, well, no, we can't show you this second one. So I think that's got to come out, and the American people should see it. It shouldn't be behind closed doors to members of Congress.
Well, at least, I mean, you could show a lot of it, and then you'd also get the communication potentially, whether it's on paper, on record, or on the tape. Jonathan Lemire, of the kill chain, of all the different discussions that might have been had over the course of 40 minutes, they must have talked to each other about whether or not to do this second strike.
One would certainly think, and we had a former JAG on the show earlier today, suggest that there would be these discussions before the first and second strike. President Trump has said he'd be okay with having that second video released. We'll see if that comes to be. Senator King, back in January, you questioned Pete Hegseth during his confirmation hearing about his commitment to the rules of war. Let's take a listen now to part of that exchange.
Title 42, I think, also has provisions that incorporate the Geneva Convention and the laws of armed combat. Are you saying that those laws should be repealed? That is the law of the land right now.
Senator, we have laws on the books from the Geneva Conventions into the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and then underneath that you have layers in which standard or temporary rules of engagement are put into place. We fight enemies also, Senator, as our generation understands, that play by no rules. They use civilians as human shields.
So are you saying
they target
that
women and children?
The Geneva Convention should not be observed?
We follow rules. We follow rules, but we don't need burdensome rules of engagement that make it impossible for us to win these wars.
You're saying two different things. You're saying we follow rules, but we don't have to follow the rules in all cases. Is that correct?
Senator, I'm making
some rules.
Senator, I'm making an important tactical distinction that warfighters will understand.
So, Senator King, there's been video unearthed from 2016 and the like, when then Pete Hegseth talked about the importance to not follow illegal orders. He talked about the importance of some of the adhering to military codes like these. It seems like his views have shifted over the years, shall we say. You were obviously concerned then, and you feel like your fears have been borne out.
Absolutely. I didn't, of course, I had no way of knowing what was going to happen, but I was worried because I'd read Pete Hegseth's book, The War on Warriors, and it's pretty clear. He says something about we shouldn't be bound by rules written by men in paneled rooms 80 years ago. That's the Geneva Convention. And that's what I was pressing for that day, and here we are. And by the way, that comment from 16 is sort of rich, because now he and his pals in the administration are calling those senators and congressmen seditious and traitors and all that kind of thing for simply saying what he said, which is, you shouldn't follow an illegal order.
Can you articulate, though, Senator, why the average American should consider this story not merely abstract and academic and buried in a 3-volume tome about the rules of war, but something that's relevant to this country and their lives even specifically? Because he says the bad guys are not obeying any rules, and you expect us to compete with them.
Well, one of the problems with this whole operation, and we should pull back from this one boat strike, one of the problems with this whole operation is what's the legal basis for it? How are they doing it? How is this consistent with our rules of how we operate our society? Does this mean if you can kill a narco-terrorist out in the water, can you kill one on the street of San Francisco with no trial or anything else? By the way, they're killing the people that haven't been tried or anything, and they're pardoning the big guy who was convicted in a court. I mean, this is, to me, this is symbolic of this administration. The little people get crushed and the big people get off. And that's one of the things that's so just unbelievable about the situation. All this chest beating about narco-terrorists, and they just pardoned the biggest narco-terrorist I think that's ever been convicted in a U.S. court.
The president of Honduras. Senator, while we have you, the administration sort of quietly released the national defense strategy on Friday, but it has made loud noises in the foreign policy circles, and it received some approving reviews from the Kremlin. A spokesperson.
Don't take my line away from me, man.
Well, let's hear it.
One of the first responses was from Putin's spokesman, who said it aligns with our vision.
Great.
Man, is that really what we want? And it's a lot about business and relationships and why do we care? It's not about American values. It's also about migration. These people, I mean, this is the Trump immigration policy, and they're telling the Europeans you can't do this. It's a pretty appalling document, and I think the Russians telling you that it aligns with their vision is all you need to know.
We'll follow up on that. Independent Senator Angus King of Maine, thank you very much for coming on the show, and it's good to see you.
Nice to see you, Mika.
All right.